What is good, YouTube, and welcome back to MKE MANIACI, and today we got 10 worst WWE World Heavyweight Championship reigns ever from the partsFUNknown YouTube channel. Man, now listen, we are less than 2 weeks away from the Night of Champions, where WWE rebirthed one of my favorite championships, that being it's their modern day version of Big Gold, the World Heavyweight title, man. Now, although this is my favorite championship of all time, there have been some terrible championship runs, and we're going to check out 10 of them and give our thoughts on it, man. So let's get it.
Off the bat that I love the big gold belt. It may come from a place of nostalgia, as this title was a big deal when I started watching wrestling, but when I think of the World Heavyweight Championship, I smile. Well, that is until I had to write this list, because I did not realize just how lousy so many of the title reigns in the big gold belt's big gold lineage were. Constant title changes after a month or two, Triple H on top. It's a bad time. But
all right. Slow down on Paul. Slow down on Mr. Paul Levesque.
Before WWE brings back the big gold belt with its new big gold haircut, we must take a look at the crap. Hopefully they do it right this time. We've looked at the best, now here are the worst. I'm Tempest, hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are the 10 worst WWE World Heavyweight Championship reigns ever. But before we get on with this list, make sure of course that you like this video, subscribe, and enable notifications to always on so you never miss a list just like it. And make sure you check out last week's list, where we looked at the best reigns that the World Heavyweight Championship ever had to offer. Number 10, Randy Orton's first reign. What is the biggest thing you've ever done out of spite? If your answer is anything less petty than crowning a new World Heavyweight Champion before they were ready for the sole purpose of erasing the guy you're mad at from the history books, then congratulations, you're not as spiteful as Vince McMahon. In 2004, who should leave WWE but Brock Lesnar, taking the record of youngest world champion with him. Then, just as WWE would be one to do every other time someone they didn't like held a record in their company, AJ Lee and Demolition Say Hello, they made sure to wipe them from the record books post-haste. Young 24-year-old Randy Orton would take the mantle of youngest world champion, beating Chris Benoit at SummerSlam 2004, only to turn around and have his Evolution pals kick him out of the group, with Triple H winning the title just 4 weeks later. It wasn't about Orton, who was still a few years away from being the main event star he would become. It was about erasing history.
What I actually, I went back a little way too far. What I actually liked about Randy winning the world championship at SummerSlam 04, one, you know, WWE at that time, they were faced with a hard dilemma. Goldberg, Lesnar, The Rock, Stone Cold, they didn't have any of those huge stars anymore. You still had dependable guys like Shawn, Triple H, Undertaker. I get that. But I really like the fact that they put the championship on Randy Orton. I like the fact that they gave Benoit the championship. Bro had incredible matches with Kurt Angle the year before that. I just wish they would have had Randy's title run go a little longer. It would have added more validation heading into WrestleMania 21 that next year when he fought The Undertaker. I think Triple H was always been the safe bet when it came down to the booking on Raw. You know, it was always a safe bet, but they most definitely did that out of spite to Brock Lesnar. You know, oh, Lesnar's the youngest WWE champion. We're gonna have Randy take the youngest world heavyweight champion spot. So it was cool to see a new star, though.
It wasn't about Orton, who was still a few years away from being the main event star he would become. It was about erasing history. So, I guess well done. Number 9, Alberto Del Rio's first reign.
God.
What is worse than a prick being pushed as a babyface? Of course, we may not have known just how much of a prick Alberto Del Rio was at the time of his first reign as World Heavyweight Champion, but that little-known fact didn't make this run any better. Alberto was pretty consistently a flop as a headliner in WWE, sporting 2 dud WWE Championship reigns in 2011, and then 2 dud World Heavyweight Championship reigns in 2013. He had a lot of things working against him, having a feud with The Big Show that centered around the two having a pair of last man standing matches, and then building to a regular wrestling match, Ricardo Rodriguez having a bucket as his gimmick. Nothing says world champion quite like a bucket. He then had the most piss break of all WrestleMania piss break title matches with Jack Swagger at WrestleMania 29, and that was curtains for this cursed reign. By 2013, this title was a shell of its former self, but this particularly unlikable babyface was hardly one to pull it from the...
I hate it. I will go out and say it. 2012 and 2013 were the worst years for this championship. I did not like any of the championship runs. The end of 2013 when Randy won the title back, you know, and it was that TLC thing. That was cool. Or I'll say, okay, when Randy, you know, that thing that they had going on at the end of 2013, I like that. But other than that, bro, I even put 2011 in there. Big Show, Daniel Bryan was cool, but Big Show, Alberto, Sheamus, oh my god, bro, like the title, it felt like a mid-card championship. It honestly felt like a mid-card championship, and the only reason that championship didn't like fully lose all of its relevancy is because the mid-card championships weren't even getting any love at this time. I don't even think, I want to say Ambrose was U.S. champ at that time. Bro barely defended that championship. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
The mud. Number 8, Rey Mysterio's first reign. Just in case some of our younger viewers thought that WWE pulling the rug out from under their new champions was a recent development, save for the likes of Kofi Kingston or Big E or Seth Rollins, here we present the entirely depressing 2006 World Heavyweight Championship reign of Rey Mysterio. Emphasis on the heavyweight. And speaking of heavyweights, immediately following Rey's monumental win in honor of Eddie Guerrero at WrestleMania 22, which keeps this reign from ranking any higher on this list by itself, Rey was crushed beneath the sheer weight of Mark Henry and the Great Khali, losing to both of them clean on SmackDown en route to beating JBL at Judgment Day. His only clean win on pay-per-view as champion. Yeah, the big takeaway from Rey's time holding the big gold belt was that he really didn't feel like a champion. He lost a lot. I mean, he beat Gregory Helms, the man with the worst Titantron of all time, but if that is the highlight of your world title reign, then that probably means it was a pretty lousy title.
Rey's championship title run, they could have booked it a little different. You know, they were doing the whole, you know, biggest little man, the underdog thing, and, you know, he wasn't afraid to step up to the bigger competitors like Henry, Khali, JBL. I want to say Booker T was the one that ended the title run. It was at the Great American Bash that year. I think Rey should have honestly held on to the championship a little longer. I think he should have. Honestly, you know, and this could also be one of the instances of the chase was better than the title run. You know, when we lost Eddie, that was a shock to everybody, and you know, everybody immediately. I know when I was younger, I'm like, Rey gotta win that championship. Rey has to win the championship. And, you know, and it looked really confusing on what they were really trying to do at that time because Batista was the champ. Batista got injured. Then we all thought Mark Henry was going to win the championship. Then it turns out Kurt Angle wins the championship. Then Undertaker challenges Kurt Angle. Rey wins the Rumble. It's like, what the hell is going to happen at WrestleMania? But I just knew Rey should have won that championship. But, yeah, you know, his title run was a little... Now that you really think about it, it was kind of mid. I ain't gonna lie.
Number 7, Christian's first reign.
Oh, yeah.
I've been able to avoid talking about this in my first 2 years of list making, but now here we are. We have reached the moment that broke me as a wrestling fan. Everyone remembers their first time being hurt by wrestling. This was mine. Being a little Toronto-born Edge and Christian fan like I am, seeing Edge retire in 2011 legitimately brought a tear to my eye, just as seeing Christian capture his first ever World Heavyweight Championship and embrace Edge did. Christian on top was fresh, a new star getting a run with the title, a great worker in every aspect of the game, complete with a feel-good moment to crown a new babyface champion. And then he got pinned clean to lose the title just days later by Randy Orton on SmackDown.
Yep.
Why? Now, I would be a fool to not point out that this summer-long rivalry between Christian and Orton was fantastic, and that may be ends justifying the means for some, but at the time there was nothing more frustrating than hoping for some new stars to be made after WrestleMania, only to once again find both world titles around the waists of John Cena and Randy Orton. And I mean in terms of reigns, who could possibly argue in favor of Christian's first reign? It was 2 days! 5 if you want to keep in time with WWE canon, but the only canon I want to hear about is the one I want to shoot this title reign out of. Number 6, Dolph Ziggler's second reign. A few of these reigns can really be chalked up to missed potential. In the case of Dolph Ziggler, he had the moment of all crowning moments when he cashed in Money in the Bank the day after WrestleMania 29 to win the World Heavyweight Championship, but an excellent crowning moment does not make a good reign. This was a title reign that had felt like a very long time coming. Finally, Ziggler's moment after having toiled away in the mid-card for years, slowly climbing up the card to the point that he could defeat John Cena in the main event of TLC 2012 before finally becoming champion. And then he got a concussion. One little bump on the noggin, and all that momentum was out the window, and Dolph dropped the title back to Alberto Del Rio in his first title defense. This was a pretty effective double turn, with Del Rio focusing his attacks on Ziggler's head, and could have paid off with Ziggler regaining his title at SummerSlam, this time as a true blue babyface, but no, this was just the end of it all. Vince reportedly only gave Dolph his moment because that was the right thing to do on that night, but had no intention of actually pushing him, which may seem like the logical next step towards creating a new top star, but excuse me when I say that is a tale as old as time.
You know what's crazy with Dolph Ziggler? Imagine if they, if they did make Dolph Ziggler that guy. It hurt. When he won that championship and lost it just as quick, due to his injury, and we know how Vince is with injuries. As soon as you get injured, they kind of just lose faith in you. But Ziggler had every single component to be that guy for them at that time. Now that ship is kind of sailed. But yeah, I could only imagine what they could have done with Dolph Ziggler that year as world champion, man. Like, I think Ziggler would have brought validation back to that championship, honestly. If they just booked it a little better, I think he definitely would have.
Number 5, Kane.
Terrible.
A lot of people were very happy to see Kane get a real run as WWE World Champion in 2010. It had been 12 years since he last won a World Championship, and even then, he was only WWE Champion for 1 day. Not much of a reign. But having lived through this 154-day Blight on SmackDown ass reign, I don't know that I wouldn't prefer the 1-day reign. Kane is a real nostalgic character for some, but I will be damned if he wasn't routinely involved in the worst storyline of the year for WWE, and there were a few candidates here with this reign. His 2010 rivalry with The Undertaker once again proved that these two were incapable of having a good match together, putting on 3 straight pay-per-view stinkers until Kane turned his attention to Edge, the babyface who tormented Kane, the heel, by torturing Paul Bearer. How did he torture the man on a PG show, you ask? Well, he threw dodgeballs at him, covered him in pizza, and then had Kane push him to his death? Well, I guess that last one really wasn't PG, now was it? All in all, this reign was a drag upon the main event scene on SmackDown in 2010, and good for Kane for getting a thank you world title reign, but goddamn if we weren't sick of it by the end. Number 4, Triple H's second reign. In last week's list, we spoke about how for the first 3 years of the Big Gold Belt's Big Gold life, Triple H had full custody over it, weekends and holidays too. While Reign 3 was actually quite good and significant, and Reigns 1, 4, and 5 were sort of middle of the pack and not long enough to become all that offensive, this reign right here is what made the internet hate Triple H with a fury. Winning the title at Armageddon 2002, Triple H started his year of running through every WCW star he could find and doing so in horrible fashion. He started with the worst in-ring rivalry of the year with Scott Steiner, and then moved on to the horribly racist and impossibly toned down.
Booker T should have won at WrestleMania 19. But I understand. As much as I would have wanted Booker to win, it was politics at the end of the day. WCW guys, this title run for Triple H. He took down Scott Steiner. He took down Booker T. He took down Kevin Nash. Goldberg got the one up on him, but it eventually ended with him taking down Goldberg again. WCW guys will never top WWE guys. That was the moral of the story with this championship run. That was the moral of the story with it.
Def Booker T feud that saw Triple H disrespect Booker with the longest pause between pedigree and actual pinfall in history at WrestleMania 19 before turning his attention to Kevin Nash and a pair of terrible pay-per-view matches at Judgment Day and Bad Blood, and then who should step up to the plate but Bill Goldberg. Goldberg could have at least ensured that this godforsaken title reign ended when it was supposed to, but nope! Triple H balls that one up too, beating Goldberg at SummerSlam when he had no business to, and may I also remind you that this was the fat-faced, shaven, biker trunks Triple H era. Mine is 5 stars just for that. Number 3, all the ones under 20 minutes. This would have been a difficult list to write if half of the entries were just me talking about how the entry in question was longer than the title reign I was actually talking about. I could only make that joke once, and there are 4 of these reigns. WWE loves to do the old switcheroo and crown 2 new champions in one night with the same belt. A new way to say, haha, now you have the shortest title reign of all time. They did it with Jeff Hardy and Big Show with Money in the Bank, and they also...
Jeff Hardy one hurt. It hurt. It was cool when Punk cashed in Money in the Bank the year prior. I was like, okay. But when you cashed in on Jeff Hardy, bro, I was like, man, come on now. Jeff Hardy deserved to be champion, man. Only for him to leave the company like 2 months later.
Also did it with poor Dolph Ziggler, who just can't stay away from this list. Hell, he has said himself that he doesn't even count this as a title reign, and I can't imagine why. Perhaps when he fantasized about his big crowning moment, it didn't look like Vicky Guerrero stripping Edge of the title for using his totally normal finisher and awarding the title to Ziggler, only to lose it back to Edge less than 10 minutes later. That one was without a doubt the most damaging, and would hold a spot near the top of this list had it been on its own. Also, Randy Orton's final reign with the belt also only lasted a few minutes as the title was unified with the WWE Championship at the end of TLC 2013, which wouldn't be on this list, but for the sake of this entry, I must cover my bases. Number 2, Jack Swagger. Some of the reigns on this list were just poor, and then we moved on with our big gold lives. But others, like the remaining ones here, are the reigns that really brought this big gold belt down to its big gold depths. Jack Swagger was always a bizarre choice to be Mr. Money in the Bank in 2010. Usually you kind of see big things for the lads chosen. Edge, Rob Van Dam, Mr. Kennedy. There was some thought put in. There was no thought put into World Heavyweight Champion Jack Swagger.
At all.
Swagger had only won just one singles match on TV.
The damn Money in the Bank match was clustered as hell at that WrestleMania. And of every choice that you could have picked, you guys picked Jack Swagger. Jack fucking Swagger to win Money in the Bank and cash in on Chris Jericho the same week. Crazy. He came out, he tried to look all serious. It wasn't the little smiley Jack Swagger. No, it was like, bro, what the hell is this, man? This by far, his title run has got to be the worst world heavyweight. I don't even know what's number one. This should be number one. This was terrible. No, I know what number one is. Great Khali is number one, but this was terrible.
TV in 2010 before winning Money in the Bank, and then just days later on SmackDown, he was the World Heavyweight Champion. Look at his pure excitement. Ooh, I haven't seen someone that excited since the last time I had to write a list about Roddy Piper's blackface. Jack Swagger simply isn't and wasn't a top guy. He was boring, he was a bad promo, and he was somehow huge but also not intimidating. And it must be said that the most over period of his career came when he was cosplaying as a man from Fox News, and I'm just going to leave that one alone. This reign was actively damaging to the World Heavyweight Championship, that at this point was still on relatively equal footing with the WWE Championship, but after this it just sort of wasn't. And number 1, the Great Khali.
Yeah.
Me running if this does not get nearly enough hate for being maybe the worst WWE World title reign of all time. Move over Diesel, Jinder Mahal, this was the real shit. The Great Khali made Kevin Nash look like he had the agility of a cruiserweight and made Jinder look like he had the versatility of AJ Styles. The only points that go in favor of those reigns being worse than this one were that they were too long. This one was but a mere 61 days during the summer of 2007, maybe the worst time period to ever be a WWE fan, and this reign was certainly not going to lift anyone's spirits. Match after match of just lumbering around, bopping people on the head, boots in the corner. My heart goes out to Batista for being linked to this reign, having to have horrible matches at Great American Bash and SummerSlam, with that SummerSlam match remaining maybe the worst big gold title match ever, before finally wresting the title from Khali's massive hands at Unforgiven, only to then turn around and have to have a Punjabi prison match with the Giant at No Mercy. That match doesn't play into this reign, of course, but it only further illustrated why the Great Khali should have been kept 7+ feet away from the big gold belt at all times.
And
that's our list.
Was Khali's reign. I remember Edge was the champ. What was it? He had the Mardi Gras celebration. That was when Edge was about to feud with Kane. I want to say it was he was about to feud with Kane that summer. He got injured. Khali won that championship. It was terrible. That was terrible. And Khali, I want to say it was like a couple months before that he lost to John Cena. He got FU'd off the freaking thing at, what was it, Judgment Day or at One Night Stand or something. But yeah, this was a terrible run. Khali winning the World Championship, that was definitely Vince's booking. You could tell. You could honestly tell. But that was terrible. 10 worst WWE World Heavyweight Championship reigns ever, man. Like, them making this list really made me realize that it was some terrible ones. I hope, this is a different company now. Today's wrestling, we got honestly the most talented roster that I've ever seen in all my years of watching wrestling. The last 2 decades of watching this, some of the greatest talent right now. No disrespect to the ones that came before and paved the way, but there's no way they can fumble Never mind. If y'all new to the channel, y'all rock with me. Want more wrestling content, hit that subscribe button for me. And until the next video, I'll see y'all then. Thank you for watching MKE Maniaci. I'm out.